you're not depressed, you're not ungrateful, but somewhere along the way, your life started feeling like it belongs to someone else. Like you're watching it from behind a glass door. You're still showing up, still ticking the boxes, still doing everything you're supposed to do. But something is off and you can't quite put your finger on it. If that resonates, stay with me, because today I want to talk about what's actually going on underneath that feeling and what it might be telling you. Hi, if you haven't met before, my name is Virginie. I'm the founder of Love or Love with Virginie. This is a space for people who feel the gap between the life they're living and the life they actually want. If you're ready to start building a life that actually feels like yours, subscribe to this channel. I share content every week to help you do exactly that. So all you have to do is to hit the subscribe button below. Thank you. I want to start by naming this properly because I think a lot of people carry this feeling for a long time without ever having the words for it. Feeling disconnected from your own life is not the same as burnout. It is not the same as being on autopilot. Although, for me, one basically led to another. Autopilot is behavioral. It is counting the hours of your day backwards, going through the motion, being busy without being present. Disconnection is something deeper. It lives inside of you. It's what happens when you've been on autopilot for so long that you stop recognizing your own life. You don't know why you're doing the things you are doing anymore. You've lost touch with your spark, with your why, and life starts to feel lifeless. But you're still hitting your to-do list, still reaching the milestone, but it doesn't give you the dopamine it used to. The sense of control and safety you once got from achievement starts to fade. And what's left is this vague, hard to explain restlessness. Like you are fed up, but you can't exactly say why. And what is really disorienting here is that the life you feel disconnected from is not even the life you want anymore. At one point, it was fine, it was enough. And then one day, just wasn't. But this new version of yourself, this life that actually fits who you're becoming, it feels so far from where you're standing right now. And that gap, believe me, is painful and also confusing. And I want you to know it makes complete sense. So what's actually causing this? Here's what I believe from my own experience and from the conversation I have with people going through this. You feel disconnected because you have grown. You have evolved, you have changed, but your life hasn't caught up yet. Your values have shifted. Your standards have risen. The version you hold for yourself looks different now than it did when you built the life you currently are living. But your environment, your routine, your role, they're still built around the old version of you. And every single day that you show up to a life that no longer fits, that gap between who you are and how you are living gets wider. And here's what makes it so hard to spot. The longer you stay in that gap, the more you start to feel like just who you are. The numbness becomes your baseline. The flatness starts to feel normal. You stop questioning it, not because nothing is wrong, but because you have adapted to it so well that it stops feeling like a problem. It starts feeling like it's just the way life is. And then adds the busyness on top of that. When you're working long hours, running on not enough sleep, barely keeping up with your responsibilities, your brain is not in reflection mode, it is in survival mode. There's no space to ask the bigger question, no energy to imagine something different. Just enough bandwidth to get through the day and do it all over again tomorrow. And I live for that. I remember thinking, how could I ever spare 30 minutes of my evenings researching a new path? My brain was so depleted. The idea of exploring something new felt almost laughable when I was that exhausted. So I stayed. And the disconnection deepened. And when it got too heavy, do you know what I told myself? All I need is just another holiday. Maybe you said that to yourself too. The problem is a holiday never quite fixed it. Because 2 weeks later, I came back to the exact same life, the exact same environment, the exact same version of myself that didn't fit anymore. I hadn't processed anything. I hadn't gained any clarity. I just paused the discomfort temporarily, and then I came back and stepped right back into it on Monday morning. A holiday gives you rest, much needed rest, I should say, but it doesn't give you the answers. And what I actually needed wasn't rest, it was the tools to understand what I was feeling and the space to start imagining something different. Here's the reframe I want to offer you today. And I want you to really sit with this. Feeling disconnected from your life is not a sign that something is wrong with you. I know I keep coming back to this, and I keep saying it because I know how easy it is to misinterpret this feeling and to turn into evidence that you are someone broken, that you are behind, that you are somehow failed at your own life, but you haven't. And let me say clearly this one more time. Nothing is wrong with you. This phase of life you're in right now, it's more like a signal that you have outgrown where you are and that you are ready for a new chapter. That the version of you who built this life has evolved, and now he or she is asking for something more aligned, something truer to who you have become. And here's something that only someone who has actually lived through this can tell you. The discomfort you're feeling right now, that's not the problem. That discomfort might actually be one of the best things that can happen to you. I was speaking to someone last week about this idea of reaching your breaking point. That moment where the discomfort inside of you builds and builds from things actually clearly worsening in your external reality until staying becomes more painful than moving forward. And what I told this person and what I'm going to share with you now is welcome this discomfort. I know that sounds strange, but stay with me. Here's the thing about people who can take pain, like you and me. We are resilient. We can hold a lot. And while this is a strength in many ways, it can also mean that we can stay in a situation that isn't right for us for a very long time. Things can be hard, things can feel misaligned, but as long as it's manageable, as long as you can cope, we stay. I did that. I stayed for years, and for a long time I was angry about it. I used to ask myself, why did it have to get that bad? Why did it have to be pushed to my absolute limit before I finally moved? That felt so unfair to me. But when I'm really honest with myself, if I hadn't hit those lows, I would have never moved, because I was so attached to safety, so attached to looking like I had it together. The comfort of the familiar, even when it was making me miserable, that felt safer than the uncertainty of something new. I needed to reach a breaking point to finally choose differently. That's my story. It doesn't have to be yours. But I tell you this, if I had reached my breaking point, I would be living a completely different life right now. I certainly wouldn't have this story to tell. So here's the hard truth. The worst thing that can happen to you is not that you feel disconnected. The worst thing that can happen to you is that you never feel uncomfortable enough to move. Because if you're watching this episode, I already know something about you. I know you have standards. I know you probably have a vision for yourself. Maybe ones that you've been carrying in since you were young, of someone successful, financially comfortable, living a life that actually means something. That vision is your North Star. It's the reason this mismatch hurt as much as it does. It's the reason you can't just switch the feeling off and settle. And that is not a burden, that is a gift. Now, I do want to get practical here, because I don't want to leave you sitting here watching this with a feeling that has been named, okay, but not moved in any way. And I'm not going to give you a 5-step plan. That is not what this is. And honestly, I don't think this is what you need right now. What I want to share is what actually worked for me. And what worked for me was not a framework and was not a formula. And it really just started small, almost embarrassingly small. At the time, as I said, I was working on a training floor, long hours, high pressure, constantly exhausted, running on empty. And let me tell you, the idea of reinventing my life felt completely out of reach. I didn't have the energy for some grand plan, and barely had the energy for the day in front of me. So I didn't start with that grand plan. At the time, I just started with just taking on a weekend course. I literally just look at what was available, chose something that genuinely sparked something in me, fashion at the time, completely unrelated to what I was doing professionally, and I signed up for it, and that was it. That was the whole move. And here's what that one small decision did. It broke the pattern for me. Just for a series of weekends, it pulled me out of my environment that had been waiting so much on me. And I was in a room with different people, thinking about different things and using suddenly different part of my brain. And I even made a friend. And somewhere in one of those weekends, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I had a spark. I became curious again, and curiosity, even a small, quiet flicker of it, is everything when you have been feeling flat and numb for so long, because curiosity leads to action, and action, even the smallest action, starts to rebuild your sense of agency over your life. Your sense that you are someone who does things and try things and makes move. That one course led to another, which led to events, to meeting new people, to having different conversation, and until nearly 2 years later, I was living what I call a double life, where I had my finance career during the week and I had my new path taking shape on evenings and weekend, and I got unstuck. Not through a great plan and a dramatic leap at the time, but through consistent small act of motion, one thing, then another, then another. And I want to be clear about something. My move, my ultimate move, happened to be a full-blown career pivot. But yours doesn't have to be anything like that. It could be deciding to make an internal move, or asking to be transferred to a different city, or working at your competitor. There is something I want to add that I wish someone had told me earlier. There's something really, really powerful about doing something new or different. A course, a hobby, anything that has nothing to do with your job or your current identity. Being in a room with new people, thinking about different things, remembering that the world is bigger than the environment you're stuck in. It doesn't need to even have a destination. The size of the first step does not matter. What matters is that it is yours, that it feels right to you, and it comes from something genuine inside of you rather than some obligation or expectation. And here's the most important thing I want to leave you with before we close this video. Right now, your job is not to find a solution. Your job is to identify, to name what's actually happening, to stop treating this feeling like a personal failing and start treating it like information about who you have become and what you are ready for next. The solution? I have complete faith in you. You can find it. I found mine on my own with no roadmaps and no certainty. And if you want to move faster with more clarity and less time spent going in circle, that's what coaches and the right supports are for. Either way, you are not stuck forever. You are just at the beginning of figuring out what's coming next for you. So if you are sitting with that feeling right now, that quiet sense of this doesn't feel like my life anymore, I want you to hear this. You haven't lost yourself. You have grown beyond the box you are in, and that is the beginning of something, not the end. If this resonated with you, I would love to know in the comments what's the one thing in your life that no longer feels like you. And if you're not already subscribed, come and join the Level Up with Virginie community. There's a lot more of this conversation to come. Thank you for staying till the end, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye. Thank you for joining me on the Level Up with Virginie channel. For more insight on how to build a life that is truly yours, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel.